What if you could test drive a new policy before it ever went live? See how customers would actually react to a new product before you spent a single dollar building it? Well, today we're diving into a brand new frontier in AI that's promising to do exactly that. We're talking about creating these incredible simulations of human behavior. Think of it as humanity's very own what-if machine. Okay, let's really get into this. Just imagine for a second. You have a machine, a what-if machine, that could tell you how a whole group of people would react to any decision you make before you actually make it. I mean, what would you even do with that? How would that change, well, everything? The way you launch a product, set a new company policy, or even just manage your team. The possibilities are kind of mind-blowing. Look, the reality is, we all make what you could call bad bets. All the time, right? We launch products that totally flop. We roll out policies that just backfire spectacularly. We make these big strategic guesses that just don't pan out. And why does this happen? Well, it's pretty simple, really. We're always working with incomplete information about how people are actually going to respond. It's a total guessing game.
And, this is not a new problem, not by a long shot. We're talking over a century ago. The sociologist Robert Merton was pointing out this exact same challenge. It's like you try to escape the city crowds for a long weekend, right? Only to get to the beach and find out that literally everyone else had the exact same idea. It just goes to show predicting what a group of people will do is it's fundamentally hard.
So, what's the answer then? What if we could build a little virtual world, a sandbox, to test our ideas out first? Well, this is exactly where modern AI, and specifically large language models, are stepping onto the scene. They are literally becoming the engines for these brand new what-if machines. Okay, so the core tech here is something called a generative agent. And the best way to think about it is this. It's like you're telling an AI, say like ChatGPT, not just to answer a question, but to become someone, to play a role, a specific person with a name, a job, their own memories and goals, and then you just let them go and act on their own based on that persona. Pretty wild, right? And that brings us to the perfect example, a little place called Smallville. So researchers at Stanford actually built this virtual town. You can picture it like a digital terrarium or maybe The Sims on steroids. And they filled it with 25 of these generative agents. And each one has a totally unique identity, and they just go about their day. The artist paints, the student heads to class, all completely on their own. So to really put this to the test, the researchers did something pretty simple. They went to one agent, Isabella, who runs the local cafe, and they gave her just one little thought. Plan a Valentine's Day party. That's it. That was the only instruction. And from that one single seed, Isabella started telling people, and then they started telling other people, and pretty soon the information was just spreading organically through the whole town, exactly like real-world gossip. And here's where it gets really, really interesting. Look at the outcome. Out of the 25 agents in town, 12 of them eventually heard about the party. And of those 12, only 5 actually showed up. 3 of them were busy with other things, and 4 were kind of interested, but just never made it. I mean, come on, how human is that? It's this super plausible, messy, human-like result that just emerged. Nobody programmed it to be that way. Okay, so the behavior feels super believable, right? It's kind of like watching characters in a really advanced video game. But if you're a decision maker, if you're going to bet your company or your policy on this, believable isn't enough. It's not even close. The million-dollar question is it accurate? Does this simulation actually predict how real people would behave in the real world? And this really breaks down that crucial difference. Think about it. Believable is like a Disney character. You totally get their motivations, their story makes sense, but you would never, ever use Mickey Mouse to forecast an election result, right? Of course not. Accurate, on the other hand, means the simulation's results statistically match what actual humans do. And that's the holy grail. That's the whole point. So to figure this out, to really measure accuracy, the researchers designed this really clever, really rigorous experiment. First, they did these super in-depth 2-hour interviews with 1,000 real people. Then, for each person, they created a digital twin AI agent, and they used the entire interview transcript as its core memory. So the AI is grounded in a real person's life. And finally, they had both the humans and their brand new AI twins take the exact same set of surveys. The big question, would the answers match up? And the result? Honestly, it was pretty staggering. The AI agents were able to replicate the human responses with 85% of the accuracy that humans replicate themselves over a 2-week period.
Now let that sink in for a second. If I give you a survey today, and then I give you the same one 2 weeks from now, your answers aren't going to be 100% identical. You're a human. You change. The fact that these AI agents got that close to human-level consistency, that's a huge deal.
And this chart right here shows you exactly why this works so well. I mean, look at it. Random guessing? Totally useless. You're at about 33%. Now, if you use simple demographics, 35-year-old male from California, you get a lot better, up to around 70% accuracy. But the real magic, the thing that pushes it all the way up to that incredible 85% mark, is that rich, qualitative data from those deep interviews. It proves one thing beyond a doubt. The quality of the data you put in is everything. Garbage in, garbage out. Richness in, accuracy out.
All right, so we've established that these simulations can be shockingly accurate, but, and this is a big but, that accuracy totally depends on how you build them. So the question becomes, how do we use this incredibly powerful new tool responsibly? And that brings us to a kind of practical playbook.
The number one rule, the big takeaway here, is you have to avoid stereotypes at all costs. If you just prompt an agent with a lazy label like be a conservative or be a millennial, you're going to get a flat, cartoonish caricature. It's useless. But if you feed it a real person's complex, nuanced story from an actual interview, that's when you get a simulation of their perspective that's subtle and way, way more accurate.
A really great mental model for this is something called the ladder of trust. Think of it as climbing from simple questions to really complex predictions. So down on the bottom rung, you have possibility. Here, you're just asking what could happen. It's great for exploring plausible scenarios, finding potential weak spots in a plan. It's low risk. Then you climb up a step to qualitative. Now you're asking how might people feel? You're getting a sense of attitudes and opinions. Climb again, and you're at quantitative. This is trickier. Here you're asking how many people will do this. You're predicting numbers, percentages. And then, way at the top of the ladder is multi-agent simulation. This is the big one. How will an entire market react? This is where you're simulating super complex, emergent behavior, and it's the highest risk.
So the main idea is pretty simple. The higher you climb that ladder, the more risk you're taking on, and the more you absolutely need to validate your results against real-world data. Down on those lower rungs, exploring possibilities, that's pretty robust, even today. But trying to predict the exact market share percentage for a new product launch from the top rung, whoa, you better tread very, very carefully and have a solid plan to test that against reality. So where is all this heading? What does the future look like? Well, let me be clear, this is not science fiction stuff for 20 years from now. These kinds of applications are being built as we speak, right now. I mean, just think about how this could completely change the game in so many fields. You could look before you launch, pre-testing a new policy for an online community to see how it might get exploited before it turns into a total dumpster fire. Or what about soft skills training? Imagine having an AI sparring partner to practice a tough negotiation or a difficult conversation over and over again. This is the next generation of market research, simulating customer reactions to new products. You can even use it to predict which scientific studies are likely to replicate and which ones aren't. These are incredibly powerful new tools for foresight. And this isn't just theory. The impact is very, very real. Get this. In one study, they used these AI agents for conflict resolution training, and the result? It reduced the use of antisocial, negative strategies in a real conflict by 2/3. Let that sink in. 2/3. That is a massive, measurable improvement in critical soft skills, all achieved through simulation. Ultimately, what this technology gives us is a peek, a glimpse into multiple possible futures. It really is a what-if machine for all of humanity. So the final big question isn't really if we can see what might be coming anymore. The real question is, if we can simulate the outcomes before they ever happen, how will we choose to shape the future?